Hello everyone, my name is Ayman and in this video I'm going to show you how to put the cross-referencing in your Word document using references that were inserted using Zotero software. If you are familiar with Zotero, you know that there is a beautiful um, connector like extension for the browser. So for example, if you enter and search for a document, so let's say this one for example, when you go through the link, you will find the Zotero connector um, right at the top here next to the address bar, and it allows you to import all the publication details in the Zotero library, which should be open right here. This is an example of Zotero library. So you just open the software, the desktop software version, and when you open any link to a document like this one, you can download all the information about uh, this reference from this button. So uh, I use it a lot in my in writing research articles. And one problem that I know many of you who are using Zotero may have, which is that the references um, cannot be cross referenced to the citation. So to show that, I have created, um, so here is a sample Word file I have created that shows you this problem. So you have, for example, these are the citations, and when you click on them, uh, it shows you how you know that it's working, because whenever you press at one position inside the citation, you will find that the whole citation is highlighted, which indicates that the connection is working between the citation and the reference. But we need something like cross-referencing, like if pressing Control plus the left click of the mouse, I want the document to take me to the reference. So this is what's missing in the Zotero citation system. So in this video, we are going to discuss how to solve this problem. So first, um, there are two types of citations in general. You have the numeric citations, and you have the author year citations. This method that I'm going to show will still work for both of them, but if your document has just numeric citations like this one, this method will work perfectly for you. And in the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to solve the problem for the other type of citation. So if you don't have this kind of style, you can install any style that you want from Zotero Live Citation Styles. You'll find it from this link. If you just click on any of the styles here, just click on it and it will be just installed. In this video, I'm using this one, the first one. It's 2D materials, and you can make sure it's installed and it's reflected inside Word. If you go to Zotero here and see document preferences, you'll find 2D materials here. So if you don't find 2D materials in this list, you can just download the style file from here, okay, and it will just install it in the Word preferences. Okay, so now we have installed the style for the citations. So it will look something like this. You will have square brackets and you have numeric values for the references, and if you have more than two references in sequence, they will be separated by a dash like this one. And if you have two non-consecutive references, they will be separated with a comma, and you may have something like this, like a combination of a dash and a comma within the square brackets. So we're going to explain how we can do the cross-referencing using VBA. I'm going to put the code in the description below the video. If you're not interested in understanding how the code works, you can just copy the code, and I will show you how to make it run for your document. So let's discuss the steps that we are going to follow to perform the cross-referencing. So the first thing we should take care of is that cross-referencing in Word means that you have to link one part of the text to its corresponding index in a list, the references list. And you know that Zotero is handling the references in a different way from how the Word itself is handling its references. It's a different system. So you can see that if you click at the numbers here. Actually, this number doesn't indicate that this is a numbered list. So Zotero inserts these numbers based on the sequence of the citations. But for Word, this is just text. It's not a number. So 1 between square brackets is not considered a numbered item for Word. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, all of these numbers are just text for the Word. It doesn't understand that these are numbers. So you cannot, in this form, cross-reference between the citation and the corresponding reference. So we will do a small trick first to trick the Word so that it understands that this references list is indeed a list of numbered items. Okay, I will show you that. So let's say we want to cross-reference from this letter, for example. Okay, and you click Insert Cross-Reference. If you click Numbered Item, you will find that this document has 0 numbered items, and that explains how Zotero is handling the references. Word doesn't understand the numbers that Zotero is putting in the references, so we have to trick Word so that it identifies this list as a numbered list. So to do that, we will just select all the references list. I'm just putting here 20 citations for this document, and we'll do the conventional numbering. Okay, you'll find that you have to check that the numbers on the left are the same as the numbers within the Zotero reference. So now you have a list of numbered items, and to show that, let's try again what we tried to do now. So if I click Insert Cross-Reference now, you will find that all the references are shown in the list now, because the Word now can see the numbered list. And as we mentioned, the second number for Word is just a bunch of characters or text. It's not a number for Word, but the numbers on the left are the actual numbers that Word handles this list. Okay, so now I can do the cross-referencing. So let's say 1, for example. Okay, and if I click 1, You see now it's working. Okay, so it takes me to the first reference. Okay, so this is the basis of how we are going to do the rest. Okay, but we will benefit from the citations being numeric values, not um, text values, in that the text that we select um, is the same value as the reference value. So 1 means the value of 1 corresponds to reference number 1, value of 2 corresponds to the reference number 2. So you can do this one by one, but if your document is large and you have maybe more than 100 citations, it will be very boring and time wasting. So that's why we are going to use some coding to automate the process. Okay, I'll just return this letter to its original um, form. Okay, and another thing, so this is the first thing, make sure that you have inserted the numbers here. Okay, and the second thing you're going to do with your document is to insert 2 bookmarks. You'll insert one at the start of your document and another bookmark at the end of your document. So I will insert here one bookmark and I call it start. It's already there. Okay, so in your case there will not be any bookmarks. You insert a bookmark and name it start. Okay, and at the end of the document you insert another bookmark and call it end. Okay, we will show why we need these 2 bookmarks. So now you don't have to do anything with your Word documents. Anything else will be just automated using the code. Um, I will just explain it briefly and then I will show you how it's running. Okay, so if you are not familiar with macros, macros are bunches of codes that are written using Visual Basic language, and it can run in several Office products. I use it mainly in Word and Excel, but you can use it in other products as well. So to allow your document to support coding, coding itself, if it's not done properly, it can damage your documents. So that's why by default, Word is blocking the macros. So you can find this info um, elsewhere. It's very popular. So if you go to the Trust Center here and go to the settings, you'll find it here. So by default, you'll find that the developer mode is not active, and by default, all the macros are disabled. So you have to enable these items so that the technique will be working for you. Okay. All right. So now you have enabled the macros for your document. We inserted 2 bookmarks at the start and just before the references, and we tricked Word with inserting another numbering um, other than the one that's done by Zotero. Now I'm going to show you the code, how it works. Okay, these variables, I will explain it later. We don't need to understand the variables now. I will explain it while we go through the code. So the first thing is define 2 bookmarks to specify the search borders as we mentioned. We call it start and end. So these two lines just specify the borders where your code will search for the citations. Okay, so these two lines are very easy to understand. Next, this is a setting for speeding up the process. So if you set it to false, this is screen updating, which means that when you update your citations, um, the process of displaying the changes on the screen takes time. So maybe it's slower if you enable this action, but you can try it. You can try if it's true or false and see if it's not affecting the speeds too much. You can leave it true. I'm setting it to false here for speed. The next line here is setting the cursor at the start of the document, which means that wherever you are initially putting the cursor in your document, this line of code will put the cursor at the start of the document so that the search starts from the very start of your document. And the other line here specifies the range. So we specified the two variables here, range start and range end, as two bookmarks. And the search range will be the range between these two bookmarks. Okay. Now this is the core part of the code. So this is a do while loop. So we just created a loop that will go through the document, and whenever it finds square brackets, it will um, process the cross-referencing for this text. So on this line, you specify two conditions. The first one is to search for all the text that's within two square brackets, which are the citations. And the other condition is that the current range is not crossing the end of the document, which means that we don't want to cross-reference the reference itself. We have to stop at the ending bookmark just before the references, and whenever the current position of the cursor crosses the ending bookmark, the code will stop looping. And now we have the so this line will select the text including the square brackets, but the square brackets themselves are not of any importance to us because we need the numbers, not the brackets. So we first remove the brackets from the text using these two lines. So actually what they do is by default, the selection will be on the whole citation, including the brackets. These two lines will shift the brackets, will shift the text selection one step from the start and one step from the end. So the first character is the left square bracket, so it will skip it. And the last character is the right square bracket, so it will skip the square brackets from both sides. And then we extract the citation data, which is the current selection. So selection.text will now refer to the numbers or the commas between the numbers, but they will not include the square brackets because we removed them in the previous step. We then delete the data. So we remove all the text from the document itself. So after you run this this line, it will delete the text. And that's why I recommend before you try this method to have a backup version of your document. Okay. Now we are storing in another variable which is called no digits. We will store in this variable all the characters that are not numeric within the citation. For example, we mentioned that we have dashes, okay, we have commas, and we may have nothing like this one. We may not have any uh, non-numeric characters within the citation, and we may have both of them together, the dashes and the commas. So this is the variable where we will store the non-numeric characters within the citation. It's a very simple for loop. So the for loop will go through the numbers from 0 to 9, and whenever it finds any number, it will just delete it. So what's remaining will be just the non-numeric characters, okay? And we defined this variable as, so we defined temp as a string, which the string that stores the citation information, and we just copied the temp in no digits. So it's the same type as temp, which is a string. So we don't need to define it separately at the start of the document. Now we have the temp, which has all the characters, the numbers, and the non-numeric characters. We have no digits, which is just the non-numeric characters within the citation. And third, we will have the numbers only. So we need to store the citation numbers without the commas and the dashes. And we do this in an array called myArray, and we define it as an array here. So these two circle brackets indicate an array, and it's an array of strings. So what we are doing here is whenever we find a comma or a dash, we replace it with a space. So this is the opposite of what we were doing here. Here we remove the numbers, here we remove the non-numeric characters, and we leave just spaces between the numbers, okay? And we use the split command to extract the numbers and store them as an array of values, which is the values of the references. And then we have another loop that will loop through the references. So first we insert the reference number. As we mentioned, we have already deleted all the citation information from the document. So now you have just these square brackets, and between them there's nothing. It's empty for at this line. So we now insert the new information. So we use type text to insert the references numbers. So we iterate using the iter variable, which we defined here in the for loop. So it will just select the numbers one by one, okay? And then on this line we select the reference. So here we typed it, but we didn't select anything. You have to select, like, you are just using the mouse to select a part of the text. This line will do the same. It will just like doing like this. So this is what this line is doing. It's just selecting the reference number that we inserted, and these two 3 lines or 4 lines here will do the cross-referencing, okay? So we have here, the trick is the reference item that we are referencing is the same as the reference number, and that's why this method works the best if your document only includes numeric citations and not the author date citations. Here you have the hyperlink, okay, it's set to true, which means that you can click on the citation to go to the reference. And then we have collapsed the selection. So when we collapse the selection, this means that we deactivate the selection that we have done before. So now the cursor is not selecting anything. and then we add the non-numeric character that was following the reference. So let's say 3 and 4, for example. So now we finished the step of um, inserting the cross-reference um, for reference number 3, and then we insert the comma. Okay, that's what we are doing here, and then we are doing the same for the next reference. So this is how the loop works. It goes through the reference within the citation and insert the corresponding non-numeric character next. And because actually every time we have the citation ending with a number, not a non-numeric character, so at the end of the loop, after we finish, we have to do the last step of putting the last number outside of the loop. Then we just activate the screen update so that you can see what happened on the screen. So yeah, so the code itself is not very complicated to understand. The whole trick is what we mentioned at the beginning, that you have to trick Word to think that this is a list of numbered items. This is the main trick. And without it, we cannot do any of these steps of coding. All right, so let's try it and I will show you what will happen now. So now we don't have any um, cross-referencing. I cannot see any cross-reference. Let's try to run the code. So mine is called here replace text. Okay, so you can browse the macros names and run this one, replace text. You can select the macro from the developer tab here. I believe by default the Word does not show the developer tab. You can show it from the options. If you go to customize ribbon, you will find it here, this one. So by default, I think this check mark is not selected. So you just select this one and click OK, and you will see that the developer tab shows up here. So if you go to the developer tab and click macros, you will find here there is a macro named replace text, which is our code that we discussed now. I'll just click run. Okay, let's see what happens now. You can see now we have the ability to cross-reference. So if I click here, it takes me to 1. Let's try another one. 6 here. It goes to 6. 13 here. Okay, yeah. So yeah. So as you can see, it's very simple. And finally, after you finish, of course, you don't want to submit your article with two numbered lists. So in the end, after you finish, you can just select the references again, okay, and disable the numbering. And this will not remove the cross-linking, because actually the cross-linking is not related to whether the items now are numbered or not, because we already created the links to specific positions within the document. So these positions are still there. We just removed the numbers from next to these positions. So if I click, for example, 12 now, it will take me to 12 again. So you don't need to worry about losing your cross references after you remove the numbering. It will still be there, and that's it. So yeah, you can see it's, if you understand how the code works and how the trick of numbering the lists work, I think it's very simple to put the cross reference. But one thing to keep in mind, that if you are going to um, use Zotero again, to maybe if you need to add new references, and if you click refresh, you may lose the cross-referencing thing. But again, you will do the same trick. So make sure that you have the two bookmarks that we mentioned at the start and at the end, and do the numbering thing and run the code, and that's it. So even if you need to do some more editing for your citations, the code should still work. Now the final part of this video is I'm going to talk about if your references are not numeric. So let's select another um, style. This one here, Chicago, is author date, so let's select it. Okay, if you select this one, you will see that now you cannot use the code, because the code is the idea of using the code is that the value of the citation itself, the numbers of the citation, are the same as the numbers that we refer to. But in our case now, we cannot refer directly to the references list here. But what we can do is we can do it manually using the same trick. So you first, what you're going to do is select the references and do the numbering. Okay. But now you cannot use the code. You can just do it one by one. So let's say this one, you can select it and insert cross-reference and go to this one. And again, as you can see, you need to put all the text of the reference. Okay, and you have to then delete the part that you don't want. So it's a little bit tricky, but again, you can do the cross-referencing as we mentioned. But you know, yeah, it looks a little bit tricky, but you still can do it. But it will just take more time to edit, because actually you cannot just put the number as we did now for the other case. So you have to remove the part that you don't want and keep the parts that you just want, and the cross-reference will work. And you will do the same for the others, and after you finish, um, you will select the references again and remove the numbering. Okay, yeah. And after you remove the numbering, as we mentioned, your cross-reference will still work, but as we mentioned, it's uh, more difficult in case of using non-numeric citations. So I will put the code in the description below, and I hope you can benefit from the information that I discussed in this video, and thank you very much. To insert the macro file in your document, you can just copy the code, let's say in a text file like this one. This is how the code looks like in a text file. So you can just select it all, copy, and within Word, you click Developer, Visual Basic. This will take you to this window. This is where I'm currently putting my file. It's right here. In your case, this will be empty, and it's a module. Okay, if you can see here the title of the window, it's module 1. I will just delete it for now and show you the process from scratch. So you click project, insert module, okay, and you copy the text as we mentioned from text file and paste it here. You can change the title if you want. Let's say cross Zotero, for example. Okay, and click save or Control S. Now if you go to the macros here, you'll find cross Zotero. So if you run this one, this will run the code in your document.